Hello and welcome to the Care It Out Sleep Show, a podcast for tired parents who are searching for a bit more sleep the caring way. I'm your host, Kerry Secker, infant sleep consultant, founder of my unique sleep approach, Care It Out, and your caring sleep supporter. I really hope you'll join me on my mission to get Smalls a settled night's sleep without the tears, training or techniques. I love talking about sleep and I can't wait to share my sleep subjects with you. My approach to getting you more sleep is simple, straightforward, but above all, it's got to make sense and feel best for you. Ready to get more sleep? Then let's get started. Hello and welcome to the Care It Out Sleep Show. You are listening to your host, Kerry Secker. Whether this is the first time picking up this podcast or you are a seasoned sleep stalker, I really hope, as always, you find this podcast useful, reassuring and informative. Today, I am going to be talking to Mona Awade from Helping Hands Postnatal Doula, and we're going to be talking all about supporting new parents in the fourth trimester, which, if you've listened to me before, you know that I am super passionate about doing so. Hi, Mona, how are you?
Hi, Kerry. I'm very well, thank you. Thank you for inviting me today.
No, thank you so very much. Just for going, so everybody knows, it was a very, very last minute. We've put it all together, but I'm so happy you said yes, Mona, and so happy to be recording this episode with you.
I'm honoured to be here today and to be speaking to you. I'm really grateful for the opportunity. Thank you.
No, amazing. Just like we've been chatting now before we hit record, we always have a little pre-chat. But just like you, I'm so passionate about honouring the fourth trimester and supporting new parents through it. So tell us a little bit about you, your business, about being a postnatal doula.
So I'm a postnatal doula. I'm based in East London, Walthamstow. I'm quite new to the field. I've just recently certified as a postnatal doula, and I'm so excited to get started. It's been so interesting so far, and you never stop learning as a postnatal doula. There's just so much out there, and I just love engaging with parents and finding out how they're doing, how they're feeling, and in ways that we can support parents. I think it's very important that parents have support during the fourth trimester. So I'm hoping to empower families and hopefully see the postnatal period transform.
Me too. We were just talking about this before, weren't we, Mona? How we never ever stop learning. It's especially parenting, but life is a constant learning curve, especially parenting, and we can all learn from each other. And I think it's that empowering parents. I think so much, and we're going to get into it, but so much of the prenatal support is all geared up to the birth, hypnobirthing, however you're birthing, like packing your hospital bag, all of those things, which are really helpful. We definitely need those. But I honestly feel that where the support is needed postnatally, there isn't much there. So when parents really need that support, that there aren't that many classes or places that you can reach out for support. So I think anything postnatal, especially a service such as yourselves, doulas, supporters, sleep consultants that are honouring the fourth trimester, I think it's so important.
Absolutely. I think this is where parents just find that the fourth trimester is such an important time. I think the attitude is starting to change slowly.
Yeah.
And I do believe that the fourth trimester shouldn't be an afterthought. Parents should consider what are we going to do when the baby comes, how are we going to have support.
Yeah.
And it's kind of fine-tuning what works for you, because we plan, as you said earlier on, we plan when parents find out they're pregnant. It's antenatal classes, it's parenting books, they're booking themselves onto hypnobirthing courses, but we don't really sit down and consider, actually, what we're going to do when the baby comes. We're all excited about picking baby clothes or colour schemes for nurseries, but when you have the baby and it's here, you're like, oh, okay. Now Is my baby feeding okay? Is my baby sleeping okay? You know, you have all these concerns as a parent, especially if you're a first-time parent. And it's, you know, it's not easy. You know, let's face it, being a parent is tough. And having that support is, you know, is just fundamental. They say, you know, there's, you know, saying it takes a village to raise a child, and it really does.
Yeah.
It's hard work, it's demanding, and I think parents should, you know, start thinking about the postnatal period more and saying, okay, we're going to budget for the postnatal period. Let's set some money aside and look to hire support, whether it's a postnatal doula or someone that can come in and just give you that peace of mind and ease you into transition into parenthood. Because it's, you know, babies don't come with a manual. You know, you don't know. You've only got to be feeling kind of guided by your baby.
Yeah.
There's you know, there's a lot to consider, and postnatal doulas are great for that. You know, we come in and we're an extra pair of hands, and we support the mother, the parents, both with feeding. You know, the mother might feel a little sleep deprived in the beginning, and that's where we say, no, off to bed, get your rest. And postnatal doulas mother the mother. That's the goal, essentially, making sure that she's nourished, she's hydrated, she's got an extra shoulder to cry on if she needs that empathy, needs, you know, support. She may have lots of concerns, and the doula acts as a listening ear. So it's all kind of, you know, sharing her, you know, her stories, and, you know, listening to parents air their concerns, because, you know, they may have a lot of questions that, you know, needs answering and needs seeing to. And this is where postnatal doulas have their expertise, and they've had training to, you know, to listen to mothers. We guide. I don't like to say we give them advice, because no one should be told how to parent, and that's what postnatal doulas are there to do. They're there to guide you and support you and offer empathy, and to just, you know, nurture you and nourish you. And I can tell you, you know, from my postnatal experience, I didn't really consider having a postnatal doula. So this is what's led me on to this journey, is kind of realizing that, yeah, it's fun being, you know, an expectant parent. And then when the baby comes, you realize it is a lonely place. It's tough.
Yeah.
And your partners are not always going to be there, you know, to lend a helping hand, because they've got work. Someone's got to be the breadwinner, and it's a really, really tough situation. And most families don't have, you know, extensive support from other families where they may have moved to London and they're not, you know, initially from London themselves. So I think having a network of support is so important, and this is where postnatal doulas come in and just shape up the whole scene of the fourth trimester and how it should feel and how it should look like.
Yeah, it's so important. So many families, I speak to families day in, day out here, that aren't parenting near their families. Like many moons ago, when I was growing up, my mum had both her mother a 15-minute walk away, and her mother-in-law 15-minute walk away, and loads of aunts and uncles. And I'm not a fan of blanket approaches. I'm not saying that nobody's parenting near families now, but for lots of us, we're raising families, or lots of you raising families away from our families, and they're the ones that give that support. And I'm not saying, again, friends and partners, you know, your family, as I like to call it, can't help, but there is nothing like your family, is it? There's nothing like your family for that support, is there?
Yeah, I mean, totally. I mean, the more support you have during the fourth trimester, the better. There's no such thing as too much support. I mean, mums may have twins, you know, there's some mothers that may have triplets, you know, and that takes an army. So it's, support, you know, whether it's family, friends coming over, providing food, just letting you have that wind down time and resting, because your body's been through so much, 9 months of pregnancy and birth, and you may not have had a positive birth experience, and you just you need that rest. You need to kind of nourish yourself as well. It's a huge upkeep, and you've just got to feel well, so that you can look after yourself and look after your babies.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I love that you said it takes an army, not a village. We've upscaled there. Love it. And also what you're saying about the manual, I'm always blathering on about how babies don't come with a manual. It would be really easy, wouldn't it, if they were all the same, they were born with their manual and we just followed that. But I do like to say that babies are the manual. All we need to know is looking at them and be guided by them. It's just really hard to do that because there's so much noise now, isn't there?
Yeah, absolutely. It's slowly changing.
Yes.
And this is the time where fourth trimester is really, really crucial.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think before we get cracking, we've got lots that we want to share. I think it might be worth just briefly going through what is the fourth trimester, just in case, I'm sure it isn't, but just in case somebody isn't quite sure what the fourth trimester is, I think just going through that maybe from your perspective and then my perspective as well.
Sure.
You want to go first?
Yeah, sure. So fourth trimester is all about the mother and baby bonding with your baby, sleeping, feeding, nourishing yourself, healing yourself. It's a time of, the anxiety, fears, uncertainty, especially if you're a new parent and you're trying to figure all this out. Is my baby doing the right things? Am I following the baby's cues? The fourth trimester is all about, learning and bonding with your baby, and also learning to take care of yourself and rest. In some traditions and cultures, fourth trimester is all about honouring that time, and by doing that, mothers will, rest as much as they can, eat as well as they can. I know it's not always easy, but it's all about taking it easy and taking time out for yourself and bonding with that baby, because what you've been through is a big ordeal.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And I don't think I have much to, so I thought you were going to say something else, and that's why I did that really awkward pause. But for me, the fourth trimester is, I think you've summarised it beautifully. I don't have much to add to that. But from a sleep perspective, the first 3 months of your baby's life is where they still very much feel like they're in the womb, and going from womb to world, womb versus world, it's a massive transition, and it's a really big difference. In the womb, that was the perfect environment. Their needs were catered to them all the time, constantly, constant temperature, the best temperature for them. They were fed when they wanted to, they moved when they wanted to, they slept when they wanted to. It was noise, it was warm. It's just the perfect environment for growing a baby. And then when they're out, world life is completely different. It's often loud, bright. They're not in fluid anymore. They've got clothes on. Quite often we're trying to get them into a routine, into a bedtime routine, a sleep routine, get them on a nap schedule. All of these will come through and talk about these later, I'm sure. And it's womb life is very, very different from world life. And it's about, I always like to say, paying them womb service during the first 3 months. That literally anything goes for womb service, keeping as you said, I don't believe in bad habits or a rod for your own back or making mistakes with sleep at any age. I just don't believe in it, but especially in the fourth trimester. The fourth trimester, from a sleep perspective, is all about getting feeding established. However you are feeding your baby, making sure they're gaining weight, they're doing well, feeding is established. bonding, getting to bond with your baby, getting to know each other. I think that's really, really important. And then also mothering the mother, getting to know each other, and also enjoying that first 3 months as well, I think is important too. The time for celebration. You might not be feeling up to celebrating, but it's really important, I think, to mark that a momentous occasion.
Absolutely. And there's no such thing as spoiling your baby. The 4th trimester is all about, as you say, bonding, and just taking time out to understand and learn about your baby. The baby needs a lot of love, a lot of nurturing. So, mothers should do whatever they feel is right for them and their baby. And if it means you want to wear your baby all the time, you want to keep your baby in a sling, you want to keep your baby on you, it's do what works for you, because the 4th trimester is such a special time and babies grow so fast.
Yeah.
They're not babies anymore, and you find that you won't be able to do that. And it's so important to give that skin to skin, increase that oxytocin flow, and to just enjoy, trimester, as opposed to, I shouldn't do this and do that because society tells us not to. It's too much pressure too soon. And I think we, mothers, parents will, start to understand that, it's all about doing what works for you and the family. And baby needs lots of loves and cuddles.
And I just think there's so much pressure. Like, I completely agree. You can't see me, but I'm air pumping here. I just couldn't agree more. But there's so much pressure on worrying about whether you're going to spoil a baby, and babies, it's impossible to spoil them at any age, but let alone the first 3 months. And the other thing is that there's so much I think there's a big expectation that all babies are going to be born with the same personality, the same temperament, and they're going to be these little baby bedbots that all do the same thing. They feed at the same time, they go to the toilet, they need a nappy change at the same time, they're going to sleep at the same time, nap at the same time. And yes, that can happen, but it's incredibly rare. So it's so important to get to know your baby and bond in that first 3 months.
Absolutely.
Not the time to be worrying about bad habits, spoiling them. And I'm always saying this, babies are not made of cheese. We cannot spoil them. Love doesn't spoil them. I'll get very passionate about this. I want to shout it. Love doesn't spoil them. If they cry, which is this is care it out, so there's no control crying, leaving them to cry. But babies cry. We can't stop that. It's their only way of communicating, especially in the first 3 months. They want to communicate a lot. They want lots of connection with you. And it makes me sad. I've got a post coming out next week for the 4th trimester week, and it makes me sad that I even have to say this, but it's always okay to respond to your baby when they cry at any age or stage, to be honest, but especially in the 4th trimester. It doesn't spoil them. You're not going to ruin your baby. You're not going to set up bad habits.
No, not at all. I completely agree. I'm a mother of 2 myself, and I've just been on this parenting journey where I've realized that I can't spoil my kids. I can't give them too much love or too much attention. They still need it now, considering the ages that they're at. So I've got a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old, and they demand your attention. They demand your love, and you're the mother. So it's all about responding to their needs and taking care of what it is that they need.
I love this. I really love this moment. And I think as there's so much pressure to get your baby, as society is so I don't want to use the word concern, because I don't think that's a word I'm going for, but so caught up in that babies, you mustn't let your baby become too dependent on you. You've got to get them independent as soon as possible. But babies are demanding, because it comes back to they're dependent on you for everything: security, food, survival. I think that's a great way of looking at it, for everything, for survival. And it is so hard, because there's so much, as I said before, it's so noisy, so much. You'll spoil a baby, don't make rods for your own back, don't help them to sleep, all of those things. But that independence, you can't teach them your baby to be independent, and holding them close doesn't make them doesn't make them clingy, which I think is really, I hear that a lot. If I go to my baby when they cry, they'll become clingy, they'll always expect that I'll go, which is the whole point of Care It Out, to be honest. But it's about knowing that those things will come, sleep will come in time, and you're getting to know your baby and bonding with them comes in time as well. But it's so hard, but try not to worry too much about getting them independent, because that will come. But first, they've got to be dependent on you. I always say they've got to be dependent in order to become independent.
Absolutely. And there's no such thing, as you say, as spoiling your baby. Babies are vulnerable, and that's the only way they communicate. They're hungry, they want to be held, they need a nappy change. It's just answering their cues. I mean, to say that you're going to, spoil your baby, or you're going to put a rod through her back so early on is just, it's a bit harsh. You've got to just go with the flow, and everything is short-lived. A baby will eventually start to sleep better, they'll start to become more independent, and they will start to kind of, you'll understand their cues better. And I think there's no such thing as spoiling your baby. It's giving them all the nurturing and all the love that you can, because it's so early on. It's the 4th trimester, and it's all about survival and feeding your child and bonding with your baby, and giving them that closeness, that love.
No, I completely agree. So we now know what the 4th trimester is, and what that can look like. I know it looks different for every family, but how can we support new parents, or how can we, if new parents listening, how can they support themselves in the first 3 months?
So in the first 3 months, my advice would be to make sure that they have a support network, whether they have family nearby or friends, or they're considering hiring a postnatal doula. If they don't have the support network, is crucial, because what you want to avoid is postnatal burnout. You don't want to be in the stage where you're like, oh, so tired, so exhausted, that you're not enjoying being a parent. And then what happens is you start to resent being a parent, because you think, oh, the 4th trimester just isn't what I thought it was going to be like. And it is hard, because you've got the demands of a newborn, and there's things that you need to do in the house, like chores and meals need to be cooked. And as I mentioned earlier, if partners, husbands are working, the mother may not have that support. So whether you decide to hire a postnatal doula, or to have family nearby, if you're fortunate enough, is so important. I would say for any parent, don't go it alone. It's not easy. Whether you're a new parent or a second-time parent, support is key. And sometimes what we don't often think about is, how am I going to cope with a new baby, or a second child, third child on the way? We don't really kind of put that we don't paint that picture in our head of how is it going to be? Am I going to survive? Am I going to be able to look after toddler and newborn? It's so important. And I think looking after yourself is hard enough, as well as looking after a new baby. And lining up support before baby arrives is, I say, if you've got that in, then you're halfway through the 4th trimester already. So it just enables you that time to not worry about the small things, like, oh, chores need doing, how's feeding going to work out for me and my baby, especially if a mother chooses to exclusively breastfeed. And it's sleep deprivation is on the cards. Your new babies don't sleep very much, and they need feeding around the clock. So it's, how are you going to cope in the day if you're not getting that sleep in the night? Are you going to be able to to get up and get on with the day by looking after a toddler and a baby and doing everything else in the house. This is exactly, you know, what I mean in terms of thinking about and considering postnatal support, because it's not easy, and I'm speaking from experience. It is something that, you know, needs to be considered very, very carefully. And yeah, it's sometimes you just have to think about, you know, how can I plan beforehand, and, you know, have this, you know, that there is help out there, and, you know, parents need to reach out for it.
Yeah, definitely. I think the biggest thing is, actually, I've got quite a lot to say here. I'll break it down a little bit. One is knowing where to look for that support. I think, like, knowing that there is support out there, because once you've had your baby, the check-ins with your doctor or your health visitor, or they do get, I know, especially, I'll come and talk about COVID in a second, because I don't think we can do a podcast episode with such as this without mentioning it, but where to look for that support. But there is support out there. There's breastfeeding support, bottle feeding support, there's the Lesh League, Henry, that provide free breastfeeding support. There's lactation consultants. There's, again, there are sleep consultants out there, such as I'm a sleep consultant myself, but there are other lots and lots of sleep consultants out there. But from a sleep side, I'm always very honest and upfront that their sleep deprivation is to be expected in the first few weeks, because your baby is born naturally nocturnal. So there is support, like sleep support out there, making sure that, I've got a whole other podcast episode on this. I'll go through some bullet points because I think that'll be helpful. From a sleep perspective, making sure that they're getting fresh air every day for you and your baby. The more fresh, hard with winter babies, but more the lots of fresh air can really help with the sleep system, keeping it loud and like continue with life, so keep it bright and noisy during the day, and then at night time keeping it calm and quiet. It's always okay to meet their needs at night time, very slowly supporting them to learn the difference between night and day. But again, by the time they're 8 to 10 weeks, give or take, most babies have sussed that out for themselves. I honestly wouldn't worry about too much at this stage about setting up naps, because again, every newborn baby is born naturally nocturnal. It's very difficult to get them, it's just harder to get them into a routine when we're trying to battle their biology. But noting down when they're tired during the day and finding a them at this stage rather than routine can be really helpful. And I definitely wouldn't be worrying about bad habits or rods for your own back at this stage. With sleep, I think that's so important. But yeah, I've lost my train of thought with this. I'm going to come back and talk about COVID, but yes, sleep deprivation, I'm always honest and upfront, that is to be expected in the first few weeks. And I think it comes back to what you were saying, everything is temporary, it does get better, but it's so hard to see that when you're in the middle of it, I think. Yeah, definitely. So coming back on two things that I think are really important subjects that I just want to bring up, COVID, because at the moment we are hoping to come out of lockdown, in the next few weeks. Come on, I'm so ready for it. But it has been, I just want to acknowledge that it's just been such a hard time. So many people, especially new parents in COVID, because that support hasn't been there. They might not have been able to see family or be going into weighing clinics, which sounds really basic, but just seeing other mums and being around other new parents, other new mums, and other new babies as well. I think it's really important. Even if it's really brief, that hasn't been going on. So as I said, I'm really hoping, I'm not a COVID expert at all, but I'm really hoping that is starting to move forward. But any advice around the lockdown situation for new parents?
I think what I would suggest is, still, do get out there and obviously safely, whether it's meeting up with, friends as you can still social distance. It's so important to have some sanity. and also just speak to like-minded parents, friends with children that can share, similar views or concerns. And it's just at a time like this, and people just, feel so entrapped that they're not going to receive the support that they should be getting. But in actual fact, there's nothing to stop you, from getting that support. Obviously, we do that within all, good means of being safe. But you still, you need to kind of get as much support as you can. Because we've seen cases, or I've heard at least, mothers are falling into postnatal depression. Fathers also experience the same, and you can end up in that cycle easily if it's day to day, same old. You're not getting out, you're not seeing people, you're not having conversations, and you're just not having anyone to speak to and to listen to any parenting concerns. And support is so crucial, whether it's a pandemic or not. There's health visitors and midwives, and now because of COVID and not doing the regular face-to-face visits, and it's all on telephone or video consultation. And this is the same for breastfeeding support. There are a lot of mothers that are needing that support, and at the moment, face-to-face is a no-can-do. So everything has resorted to video consultation or conversations over the phone. And it's support, but it's just not the same support. So this is why I just say that, I stress the importance of support during the fourth trimester, the postnatal period, because the last thing you want to do is resent being a parent, and, you feel that, your emotions are getting, you're feeling low, or you're just kind of getting too kind of caught up in the whole cycle of feed, sleep, change, and you just feel, some mums do say that they feel like robots, and it's difficult. So, getting out there, and slowly things are starting to change, and we will be coming out of lockdown. So, get out, go to mum and baby classes and groups, socialize with other people, and share the same stories, and and do communicate. I would say, if you have concerns, your partner, husband is there, share those concerns. Don't feel that you have to do this alone. Parenting is not, you don't have to do it alone. It's not a solo thing. It's important to speak up and say what's on your mind, and how can you feel supported. It's so important that support is received in the fourth trimester. Otherwise, mothers will end up feeling low. Things like, we want to try and avoid things like postnatal depression, baby blues, and postnatal burnout. You want to enjoy your baby as much as you can, and have fun. And I think the biggest thing is here as well, all parents should remember that nobody is perfect, and there is no one size fits all. As a parent, you should just feel guided by your baby, do what's best for you and your family, and don't see it as a competition. There's comparing yourself to other families. It's not the way it should be. We're all in this together as parents, and we can learn a lot from each other. And it's absolutely key that support is received. So please, anyone who's listening to this, don't go it alone. Get support. Speak out.
And that doesn't necessarily, I completely agree with you. Support is so crucial at any stage, especially in the first few weeks. And there's something really powerful about sharing, being heard. I think is so important for new parents, and sharing those stories. I think there's something very powerful in sharing stories, and I couldn't agree more with the support. It's if you are, I know that not everybody is in a financial position to be able to get support for whatever support that is, sleep consultants, night nannies, postnatal doula, breastfeeding support. I think there's so much free stuff out there now that can help, but I completely agree to keep talking and keep sharing and talking to your friends and family. I think coming out of lockdown, I'm going to imagine that there's going to be quite a few nervous parents, like worried about taking their babies out. And I don't want this to turn into a massive COVID rant, but doing it like when you feel ready, doing it safely. And if that isn't possible, reaching out. There is support out there online. There is free support out there, and there is support online as well. I think that's really important to get out there.
Yeah, support is available, and there's no pressure, there's no rush. I mean, parents should, get out there once they feel that they're ready, and take precautions. It's all about being safe, but also it's all about being sane at the same time.
I totally agree. And just even getting out for 10-15 minutes, heck, even just sitting on the balcony by a window, it makes such a difference, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And the sun's beaming today, and it's just like, would you rather be cooped up indoors, or would you go out for a walk, a stroll, and grab a coffee? It does so much for the soul.
Definitely. Even just smiling at a stranger lifts you.
Absolutely.
Just being seen and heard, I think it's so important. But I did think there were two really important things I wanted to mention briefly was COVID. I do try and avoid talking about it. But I think in this case, I really did. I really wanted to mention it. And then also just the financial side. I know that some parents just not in a financial position to get support. But so it's important for me to let them know that there is other ways of getting support out there online, calling your friends and family, having a chat. Just even such a small, just a tiny thing can make a really big difference.
Yeah, and there's lots of useful resources available. And as you mentioned, the breastfeeding organisations earlier on. There are so many other and organisations that offer the support, whether you're a mother of twins, or you may be feeling postnatal blues or postnatal depression kicking in. There is so much information out there, a lot of resources, and it's reaching out if you need that.
And to keep on talking. One thing that I did want to ask you, did you have I know I'm going to put in the links, the Shark Climb Talk today, the show notes, I'm going to put in a link to the Lalesh League, Henry, the other amazing and an amazing wealth of free and paid breastfeeding support is Maria Bettsworth from Milk Making Mama. I'll put her in the show notes as well. There was you mentioned somewhere else that was doing support. You just mentioned, I was like, I'm going to ask her, and I'll put that in the links as well.
The breastfeeding related.
Yeah.
I'll have to think back. So I mean, those are the main. The Leshe League, Henry. There's the Breastfeeding Network as well.
Yeah.
And they offer support, and there are quite a lot of organisations out there. I'd say, if you're unsure as well, look online. That's the first step. Health visitors have that information to pass on to as well in terms of support in the area with breastfeeding, and it's keeping up to date with what's out there.
Yeah, no, definitely. I know what it was. If a new parent is listening to this and they are worried about their mood, their low mood, they're worried about postnatal anxiety or depression, where's the first port of call for support for that?
So I think what I would say is getting in touch with the GP or health visitor and letting them know how you're feeling. Usually the health visitor would discover or would identify if there's any postnatal depression or potential postnatal depression, and then the health visitor would advise getting seen to by a GP to get you that support quickly. But and also doulas do pick up on this as well, and this is where doulas support and signpost onto doctors, specialists who can help with postnatal depression. Doesn't always mean that the mother has postnatal depression. It's normal the first few days that the mother might be feeling low, and that will all it's all to do with the milk coming in, the oxytocin rush, and it's we shouldn't be too judged too quick, but shouldn't make a stamp on it and say, oh, mother's depressed. No, it's just seeing how the mother is feeling. She might be feeling low, but if it is kind of getting to the stage where she may be suffering from postnatal depression, then a health visitor or GP visit is key.
Yeah, that's the point. That's really useful to know, to signpost them to there.
Mm-hmm.
And then finally, this has been so helpful, so super helpful, and I really hope listeners find it helpful too. But tell us just a little bit more about what you do and how a postnatal doula works.
Okay, so I support families in the fourth trimester, and emotional support is the very foundation of what I provide. I offer practical and informational support. So if the mother needs, help with feeding, I support feeding, whether it's breast or bottle feeding. I'm still undergoing training in breastfeeding, and I hope to kind of increase or expand my skill set around breastfeeding to help more mothers and to encourage it. And it's things like offering a listening ear if the mother has concerns. I would sit and listen to anything that's worrying her. She may choose to share her birth story with me, which is usually what mothers tend like to do or may not choose to do. And it's nice kind of hearing it from a perspective, especially if it's a birth that's gone quite well. And I offer hands-on support too, if she needs things like light housework doing, whether it's vacuuming, loading the dishwasher or putting a wash on. I'm happy to do those things. Any way that I can take the load off is pretty much how I would support the mother. And I'm also a big fan of cooking, so I love and really believe rest and recuperation starts with nutrition and nourishing the mother. So preparing her meals and offering her snacks. And my big snacks that I like to see mothers eat are nuts and dates if they don't have any allergies, because it's great for milk supply. And it's also making sure mother is hydrated, so making sure she has a lot of fluids to drink. And if she needs a rest and she just wants to shower, I'm happy to take the baby or the babies and let her have that sleep while I look after the baby.
Lovely job. Sounds amazing. And I think sometimes we can really underestimate how those really small things can make a really big difference to somebody, like getting your meals prepped or just taking care of everything else that you don't need to think about, so you can focus on getting to know your baby, bonding, getting feeding established.
Yeah, I mean, looking back at it, I really wished I had a postnatal doula.
Well, I'd definitely be hiring you, Mona. Not an announcement, by the way, for anybody listening. Not an announcement. But yeah, I would definitely. I don't know if you know my background, but I've been working and supporting parents for 20 years now, over 20 years. It's frightening, and I know how important that support is. And not necessarily, again, doesn't have to be, for a long time. It doesn't even have to be paid support, but I just know how important to feel support, how important it is to feel supported when going through a big change. So yeah, I would be all for that. And I really like that, again, every parent, every new mum, new dad is completely different. Some mums do just want to keep their baby close, and that's normal. I think a lot of what comes up quite a lot for me in practice in the first 3 months is that they don't want to, like people will say, oh, hand me your baby, you go and rest, or you go and sleep and I'll hold your baby. And for some mums, they are all over that and that works for them. But some don't necessarily want to, they don't want to miss anything. They're there all the time and might not want to baby out of their arms. And again, that's completely normal. I really love that practical side of things, paying bills, cooking. Oh, Mona, come and cook for me. That is my dream, is somebody cooking all my meals for me, putting on a load of laundry, sleeping on the floor, sweeping the floor, going to the post office. Like, these things I just think are really important.
Yeah, just small errands and you know, taking that load and not having to worry about, oh, I need to do this, I need to do that.
Yeah.
You want to really just rest and catch up on as much sleep as you can as possible, because I always stress that you're on night duty, so you need that rest.
Yeah.
It's just, yeah, it's important to take time out for yourself as well. It's the only way you'll feel kind of fully rested. And yeah, there are I wanted to add as well, postnatal doulas can be found on doula directories, you know, such as Doula UK or Find My Doula. So if any parents are thinking about hiring a postnatal doula, I would say that's the best place to start looking. And yeah, and usually what will happen is, if you decide to hire a postnatal doula, a postnatal planning session will be set up, and this usually gives the doula an opportunity to visit the family for the first time, and conversation may include things like getting to know the family and the siblings and understanding the mother's needs, and the mother may want to talk about nutrition, recovery, and the sort of help that she needs that will be required.
Yeah, amazing. So, and do you know what I'm really picking up from this? It's a really holistic way of looking at the fourth trimester.
Yeah,
you're looking at family unit as a whole, mum, other parent if there's another parent, and also baby.
Yeah, it's that complete holistic approach, as you say,
which I think is really important. Oh, that's gone so quickly, Mona. It's been so lovely talking to you. I've definitely learned so much, as I've said. I'm sure any new parents or parents to be will have found it really useful. Any last parting pearl of wisdom before we part ways for now?
Just to say that if you know there are any new parents out there or second time parents, just remember that nobody is perfect. You're all doing a fabulous job. Do get support if you need it. It's available, it's out there. No one should go it alone. And and just to enjoy the fourth trimester as much as you can, and know it's hard, but it is an amazing, special time, and it goes so quickly in a blink of an eye. And just to say also thank you to you, Kerry, for inviting me today. I'm absolutely honoured to be speaking with you today, and it's been so interesting.
No, it's been really lovely. We both want the same thing for parents.
Yeah,
we both want them to know, to feel supported, to feel empowered, to feel that they matter as well. I think that's so important. And yeah, just making the most of the first 3 months.
Yeah,
super. Thank you so much, Mona, for coming and speaking with me. I will also pop your Instagram and handle and your website in the show notes if people are looking to find out more about you. And thank you very much for coming on and talking.
Thank you very much for today.
You're very welcome. Take care. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for listening to me, your host Kerry Secker, on the Carry It Out Sleep Show. I really hope you found this podcast episode reassuring, informative, but most importantly, it helps you and your small to a more settled night's sleep the caring way. If you did, please don't forget to subscribe to the show below, leave me some feedback, or share it with a parent pal. I love hearing that you love listening. My next podcast episode will be available in 2 weeks' time. But if you really can't wait that long, please come and find me over on Instagram at @CareItOutSleepConsultant. I update my sleep squares and speak about sleep there on the daily. Big love and sleep solidarity. Until next time.